When you're in any abandoned place, you feel a sense of loss and grief. There's a real sense that somebody loved and cared and lived in a place, and then that's been disrupted. So there's places like this that feel kind of like scars on the landscape. They feel like they need to be healed. I'm frequently told that it takes a lot of vision to do something like this, and it does. But I've always been burdened with an overabundance of vision. One of the stories of Mother Joseph, who's the woman who built this hospital, is that she was involved in the carving of the wood of the altar. And that's the level of engagement that she had with the projects she undertook, was designing, fundraising, and then all the way into construction and operation of the hospitals.
It was the last building that she designed. That kind of shows you the historic value of it, because she also built 30 other buildings in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. So the building was built in 1893 by the Sisters of Providence. They stayed a hospital till about 1968. The nuns decided that they didn't want to do a bunch of, new construction on the building, and there were lots of codes that were going to be coming up. So they sold it to an individual who then turned it into a home for developmentally disabled, and it stayed that until 2003. After it was abandoned, the owner turned off the heat but didn't turn off the water, and it was December. So the pipes burst.
They forgot to winterize it, and the sprinkler system froze. So you can see that break in this massive pipe. And I've talked to firefighters who responded to the call in 2003 when this happened, and they said it looked like a cartoon building because there was just water gushing out of second-story windows from this failure. You can just see there must have been a ton of water.
The city came up and shut off the water, and the damage was kind of done. And then over the years, just people breaking in, graffiti, damaging, just everything in here. And over the years, the roof then went bad. So about 8 years ago, St. Ignatius was named the most endangered building in Washington state. So we decided that we need to save the building. And the best way to save the building would be bring lots of people here, get on national television, and hopefully we would find a new owner for the building.
My wife Laura and I first saw the building 8 years ago now. We were exploring the Palouse, and she had heard that there was an abandoned hospital. And we were really struck not only by the beauty of the building, but also how run down it was. It was in bad shape. And just in that moment, I think we were filled with sort of curiosity about its history and how it had come to be in such disrepair. And that started what ended up being a 7-year pursuit of the building.
I've been through 3 total owners, and one of the owners, 2 times, he got the building back. The first owner had sold the building to an individual who was a bit of a con artist.
His con was selling investors on sort of speculative property redevelopment.
He got $2 million worth of investments, but he didn't put any of the money into the building. He spent it on himself. The FBI called me, and I had to come in the building and show them that he had literally done nothing in the year that he had had it.
We tried to buy it multiple times during that 7 years. And then finally last April, the previous owner reached out to us and said, hey, if you're still interested and we can make this happen, I'm interested in selling it to you. We paid $115,000 for the building. One of those things where it's hard to tell whether it was a good deal or a bad deal. We won't really know that for many years.
I would say when Austin and Laura bought the building was my defining moment, because we had started this 8 years ago hoping that we would find an owner that would preserve it and save it. And the last owners really could care less about that. They didn't put any money back into the building. And Austin and Laura have put all the money back into this building.
Sometimes we think of ourselves as compulsive preservationists because when we see old buildings, it's easy to fall in love. So Colfax has an incredible legacy of really beautiful buildings built around the turn of the last century. So we have an old department store building that we run a shop out of. So we've got a lot of projects, but that's how we like it.
We have things now that we've never had. All the floors are secured and they're stabilized and they're putting a roof on right now. So that was our defining moment, that the building is actually going to be saved. Because if this didn't get a roof on it or get the floors stabilized, I don't even know if it would have lasted another winter because it was in such bad shape. They have definitely saved St. Ignatius.
It's easy to come into an old building and then kind of add modernist elements to contrast the older architectural details. I appreciate the mid-century thing. I don't know how much of that is going to make it into, you kind of have to pick a time period when you're doing restoration work. But we're also looking for opportunities to actually have sort of museum-like elements in the building that specifically tell aspects of its story. Not like you're actually going into a museum, but where you can actually sort of feel that sense of history and feel sort of transported in time. We really hope that we can turn the building into a center for hospitality and the arts. So a hotel, some kind of brewery or distillery, a place you can eat. We would love for it to be a place where people can have events, like get married on the lawn and then stay in the building, but also room for artist studios and event space. We would love for its new life to sort of reflect the hospitality that was a part of why it was built in the first place.